The sun hadn't even cracked the horizon when I heard the vehicles coming up my driveway. 3 of them, 2 patrol cars, and what looked like a code enforcement truck. I was already up, coffee in hand, watching my horses graze in the early morning mist that rolled across my 70-acre ranch. I'd inherited this place from my grandfather 5 years ago. Every fence post, every blade of grass, every memory embedded in this red dirt was mine. The land had been in our family since 1952, long before this county was anything more than cattle ranches and cotton fields. Then, about 8 months ago, everything changed. A developer bought up the surrounding properties and built Pleasant Valley Estates, a cookie-cutter subdivision with identical beige houses, an HOA that apparently thought they ruled the entire zip code. I set my coffee down and walked out to meet them. "Can I help you, officers?" I called out as a stern-faced deputy climbed out his cruiser. "Are you Marcus Webb?" he asked, hand resting on his belt. "That's me. This is my property." "What's this about?" A woman in a blazer emerged from the code enforcement vehicle, clutching a clipboard like it was a weapon. "Mr. Webb, I'm Patricia Hendricks, president of the Pleasant Valley HOA. We've received multiple complaints about your property violating community standards." I actually laughed. "Community standards? Lady, I'm not part of your community. This ranch predates your entire subdivision by about 70 years. Patricia's face flushed. "According to our records, your property falls within the boundaries of Pleasant Valley Estates and is therefore subject to our covenants, conditions, and restrictions." The deputy shifted uncomfortably. "Mr. Webb, the HOA has filed a formal complaint. They're claiming your property is in violation of multiple codes: livestock on residential property, unpainted structures, and failure to maintain landscaping standards." My horses... I gestured toward the pasture, where my 3/4 horses were peacefully eating. "And those unpainted structures are my barn and equipment shed. They've been here since before you were born, deputy." "That may be," Patricia interrupted, "but we have documentation that your property was included in the original Pleasant Valley filing. You're required to comply with all HOA regulations, including a prohibition on livestock, a requirement that all structures be painted in approved colors, and..." Let me stop you right there. I pulled my phone from my pocket. "Deputy, do you want to see the actual property deed or the county tax records? Because I guarantee you they'll show this land was never part of any HOA filing." Patricia's lips pressed into a thin line. "We have our own documentation." "Documentation?" I felt my temperature rising. "You mean the fraudulent paperwork someone filed trying to absorb my property into your HOA without my knowledge or consent?" The deputy held up his hand. "Everyone calm down. Mr. Webb, if you have your deed, I'd like to see it." I invited them into my house, a sprawling ranch-style home my grandfather had built with his own hands. While they waited in the living room, I pulled out my fire safe and retrieved the deed, along with the title insurance documents and the survey I'd had done when I inherited the property. The deputy studied the papers carefully. "These show your property boundaries clearly. Nothing here indicates you're part of the HOA." Patricia snatched the papers from his hands. "This can't be right. Our developer assured us that all properties in this area were included in the filing." "Then your developer lied to you," I said flatly, "or made a mistake. Either way, my ranch isn't part of your HOA, never has been and never will be." "We'll see about that," Patricia snapped. She turned to her companion, a weaselly-looking man who'd been lurking behind her. "Gerald, make a note. We're filing an injunction." After they left, the deputy apologizing for the inconvenience, I called my attorney, Tom Bradshaw. Tom had handled my grandfather's estate and knew every inch of this property's legal history. "Marcus, this is the 3rd HOA this year trying to pull something like this," Tom said when I explained the situation. "These developers are getting bold. They file their paperwork in a way that's deliberately confusing, hoping to snatch up properties on the edges. Can they actually do this?" "Not legally, no, but they're counting on you not wanting to fight. Legal battles are expensive and time-consuming. Most people just give in." He paused. "But you got something they don't know about." "What's that?" "Pull out your grandfather's papers. The ones in the old leather folder. There's something in there I think you're going to find very interesting. I found a folder in my grandfather's study. Inside were decades of documents, original property deeds, water rights, easements. And then I found it, a document dated 1968, granted my grandfather and his heirs perpetual easement rights over what was now the main road through Pleasant Valley Estates. I called Tom back. The access road? The only access road, Tom confirmed. Your grandfather owned that land too. When he sold it to the county in '68, he retained easement rights in perpetuity. The developer either didn't know or didn't care. Every resident of Pleasant Valley Estates is using your easement to access their homes. What does that mean? It means, Tom said, and I could hear the smile in his voice, you have leverage, significant leverage. The HOA filed their injunction, and I filed a counterclaim along with notice that I was considering revoking the easement due to harassment. That got their attention. Patricia called me directly, her voice shaking. You can't cut off access to an entire subdivision. Watch me, I replied. You tried to claim my ranch. You called the cops on me. You sent me 17 violation notices in 3 weeks. Now you want to negotiate. Please, be reasonable. There are 147 families here. Children, elderly residents. Should have thought about that before you tried to steal my land. I let that hang for a moment, but I am willing to discuss the solution. The emergency HOA meeting was held in the subdivision's community center. Every seat was filled. Residents who'd never spoken to me, who'd only seen me as the unsightly ranch guy on the edge of their perfect neighborhood, now looked at me with a mix of fear and curiosity. Patricia gabbled the meeting to order, her composure clearly shaken. We're here to discuss the easement issue with Mr. Webb. I stood. Let me be clear. I didn't start this fight. Your HOA tried to claim my property illegally. You sent code enforcement to harass me. You filed false complaints. I looked around the room. But I understand most of you had nothing to do with that. You're just trying to live your lives. So what do you want? Someone called from the back. I want the HOA dissolved. I said simply. The room erupted. Patricia's gavel was useless against a wave of voices. Hear me out. I shouted over the chaos. Your HOA has been a disaster from day one. How many of you have gotten ridiculous fines? How many of you are tired of being told what color you can paint your mailbox? Murmurs of agreement rippled through the crowd. Your HOA has $340,000 in the bank. I continued. Tom had helped me research this. That's your money, fees you paid. Patricia and the board have spent on legal fees trying to expand their power instead of actually maintaining your community. Patricia's face was crimson. You have no right. I have every right, because you came after me first. I pulled out a document. Here's my proposal. You vote to dissolve the HOA. The remaining funds get distributed back to homeowners. In exchange, I'll grant a permanent easement for the access road, and I'll never bother any of you again. And if we don't, Patricia demanded, then I exercise my legal right to control access over my easement. And good luck getting to your homes. The vote took 15 minutes. 142 homeowners voted to dissolve the HOA. Only Patricia and her 4 board members voted against it. When the final count was announced, Patricia stood. This isn't over, Mr. Webb. Actually, I said, pulling out another document. It is, because part of the dissolution agreement includes a clause preventing any future HOA from being formed on this property without my written consent. It's in the deed restrictions now. She stared at me, stunned. You taught me something valuable, Patricia. Sometimes you have to fight for what's yours. And sometimes the best defense is a good offense. 3 months later, I was back to my quiet life. My horses grazed. My barn stood unpainted and beautiful. My ranch remained mine. But the story spread. I got calls from other property owners facing similar situations. Tom and I started helping them, showing them how to fight back against overreaching HOAs, how to research their property rights, how to stand their ground. Patricia moved away 6 weeks after the HOA dissolved. The neighborhood, freed from her iron grip, actually became friendlier. Some of my new neighbors even stopped by to introduce themselves properly, apologizing for the trouble. One evening, as I sat on my porch watching the sunset paint my land in shades of orange and gold, my nearest neighbor, a retired teacher named Helen, walked up with a pie. "I wanted to say thank you," she said. "We were all so scared of Patricia. And that HOA. You freed us." I accepted the pie with a smile. I just protected what was mine. You all did the rest. As she walked back toward the subdivision, I looked out over my 70 acres. My grandfather had fought to keep this land once, standing up to developers in his own time. Now I had two. The ranch was still mine, and it always would be,